Hello and welcome to your NEWSMAX Daily from Monday, October 21st, 2024, the 295th day of the year. It's the third of 4 Mondays this month, and back to the future day. You either know what I'm talking about and you're celebrating, or you don't. Hope you had a great weekend and your team, whether it be football, hockey, soccer, or baseball, was in the win column. This is absolutely one of the best times of the year, if not the best time of the year for sports fans. So it'll be the New York Yankees and the LA Dodgers in the World Series, which doesn't begin until Friday night in LA. Obviously, both teams have huge followings, the two most popular teams in baseball, East Coast versus West Coast, the two biggest cities in the country, and also the two teams with the most phony fans. And they all come out now, right? I mean, there's the real dedicated, diehard New York and LA people that are the real fans. And then there's all these other people all around the country like, oh, I'm a Dodgers fan. Oh, I'm a Yankees fan, even though I grew up in Arkansas or whatever. And congratulations to my guy Joey Logano winning the South Point 400 in Las Vegas yesterday and advancing to the Championship 4, which I guess is like the Final Four. Is it just me, or does NASCAR have to make the playoffs much less confusing for regular people? But it was a fantastic race and a heck of a weekend all around. Again, hope you had a good one. After campaigning in Pennsylvania all weekend, former President Donald Trump attended the Pittsburgh Steelers' New York Jets game in Pittsburgh last night, which the Steelers won. If you watched Saturday's rally from Pennsylvania on NEWSMAX, you know several former Steeler players were on stage, like Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, endorsing Trump. Several other players endorsed Kamala Harris prior to the game last night. Earlier in the day, as he had promised, Donald Trump worked the fryer at a local McDonald's.
I always wanted to work at McDonald's, but I never did. I'm running against somebody that said she did, but it turned out to be a totally phony story. So if you don't mind, I want to work the French fry counter.
Absolutely.
Okay, how much are you paying me?
How much are you paying?
You can see the full video, by the way, of Trump frying fries at McDonald's on the NEWSMAX YouTube channel or YouTube page. There were several customers allowed into the McDonald's after being screened by Secret Service. After that, it was closed off to the public. Those folks also got to speak with Trump and ask some questions. Vice President Harris, who celebrated her 60th birthday yesterday, was in Georgia, where she spoke to the Congregation of the Divine Faith Ministries in Jonesboro.
We understand that for us to do good works, it means to do it in the spirit of understanding that our strength is not based on who we beat down, as some would try and suggest. Our strength is based on who we lift up.
Personally, I don't understand how you go speak at any kind of a church when abortion is at the top of your agenda. Among those in attendance there in Georgia, the great Stevie Wonder.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
I guess it's better than him singing Isn't She Lovely. Today, the vice president is heading back to the key battleground states of Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. Then on Thursday, she'll be back in Georgia for an event with former President Obama. Former President Donald Trump is making a few stops in North Carolina today, including Asheville, to visit those devastated by Hurricane Helene a couple of weeks ago. Republicans are concerned about voter turnout there, that it could be low in those mostly red districts of western North Carolina. Not so much Asheville, but the rest of western North Carolina. Back in 2020, Trump won about 62% of the votes in the 25 counties that are included in the disaster declaration. Joe Biden won about 51% in the remainder of the state. Those are numbers according to Reuters, by the way. North Carolina did implement several measures, like allowing voters to vote in different counties, which I talked about a week or so ago, as a way of making it easier for voters to be able to vote. Popular North Carolina Senator Ted Budd spoke with our Tom Basile over the weekend on America Right Now.
17 days away from Election Day, the polls have tightened. President Trump currently holding a slim lead in the Tar Heel state, your home state. So much of this, Senator, is going to come down to the get out the vote operations and the campaign infrastructure on the ground there. Are you concerned that voters in western North Carolina impacted by Hurricane Helene are going to be able to cast their votes?
Look, I think, and I've checked on all the 25 western states, and we're very comfortable with them having early voting sites in the day of election sites, 17 days from now. But again, we want to focus on getting them the things that they need for their relief. But I believe these folks are going to crawl over broken glass to go vote. It's not about sites now. It's about helping folks who may not have a driveway. They may not have a home. They're staying at churches or other places. They've been displaced. I think they're going to do anything they can to go vote. Just yesterday, we had, if you look at 2020, we had about 348,000 on early voting. Just yesterday, we had 353,000, which is setting a record, more than 2020. So we're on a good path. I was in line yesterday. It took me over an hour to vote. That's never happened here in Davie County, west of Winston-Salem. But people are excited about voting, and they're particularly excited for North Carolina. We won in 2016. We won in 2020 for President Trump. And I believe we're going to win again in 2024. But we've got a lot of work to do. President Trump, J.D. Vance are continuing to come to the state and, again, highlight the needs of those in western North Carolina.
Senator, very, very quickly for me, because I'm out of time for you, a new era for Senate Republicans, either way, after Election Day. Handicap for me, what are the Senate seats that you think that the Republicans have the ability to pick up if you were handicapping this at this point? Well,
of course, I'm looking at Ohio. I'm looking at Montana. We've got to do our work. West Virginia, it's a given with Jim Justice. So we're looking, I don't want to handicap the number, but we're going to do everything we can. And of course, we got to turn out the vote in Florida and Texas. So the Democrats, that's the only place they can play offense. But I believe we'll be in the majority, but we've got to work to earn it.
North Carolina Republican Senator Ted Budd, who was a congressman for several years before running in a very heated and very expensive race to replace retiring Senator Richard Burr back in 2022. I was working in North Carolina at that time, and Richard Burr gave an unbelievable going away speech, I guess you can call it retirement speech, on the Senate floor. I would highly recommend, if you're really into politics, go check that out, like on YouTube. Richard Burr's retirement speech. Keeping the House and winning the Senate, of course, are as important as winning the White House, right? Your down ballot votes are very, very important. Don't, take that lightly. Let's go back to Tom Basile for more on the election.
Welcome back to America Right Now. I'm Tom Basile. Well, Democrats are panicking in their all-out effort to elect their manufactured candidate to the White House. They've turned again to the kind of rhetoric that is patently insulting to America's black community. Vice President Kamala Harris started off running a campaign about nothing, and as the polling shows momentum for the GOP, it looks like hers could end up being one of the most cringeworthy, desperate displays of political pandering on record. Ms. Harris has been patronizing and condescending to a number of ethnic groups.
Let's just get through the next 64 days. How about that?
You all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024. You better thank a union member for the 5-day work week. You better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. Hello to all my divine nine brothers and sisters. Have you no empathy, man?
She's Southern 1 minute, she's Jamaican 1 minute, she's Latino 1 minute, well, whatever it is, right? But wait, it keeps getting worse.
The Al Smith dinner provides a rare opportunity to set aside partisanship.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, what's going on? Who was that?
Oh, sorry, Mary Catherine Elliott. Mary Catherine, it's so nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you, Mary Catherine. Right now I'm trying to record my speech for tonight's dinner.
But now, the desperate attempt to shore up her base among minority voters came to a head this week with her new plan to allegedly empower black men. Barack Obama at least told them, yes, we can. Ms. Harris apparently believes, no, you can't, unless there is a discriminatory, demeaning government program to help you. Her plan is naturally full of more taxpayer-funded giveaways to help grow wealth, as if that has ever truly worked for the black community in this country. Loan forgiveness programs based on race are unconstitutional and violate the Civil Rights Act, by the way. But Ms. Harris is hoping those young black men won't notice her scam. Then there was her, quote, regulatory framework for cryptocurrency to protect black men who invest or own those digital assets. Well, maybe she wants some points there for sounding fancy, but how many black men struggling with inflation have crypto top of mind or a whole bunch of Bitcoin lying around? But it was her drugs for votes policy to attract young black men that hit a new low. For starters, any suggestion that people are in federal prison for possession of small amounts of marijuana is a lie. Federal prosecutions for small amounts of possession or public use ended years ago. The drugs that Ms. Harris suggests will bring opportunity and empowerment are also now industrialized for higher potency to drive shareholder profits and higher rates of addiction. They are increasingly medically and scientifically linked to psychosis, schizophrenia, depression, suicide, and IQ loss, particularly in young people. The cognitive damage of regular use of high-potency vapes, edible THC drugs, and smoking weed is like turning an A student into a C student. That is apparently Ms. Harris's vision for America's black men. Democrats believe that black men will vote for Ms. Harris if you allow them to use more drugs is perhaps the most racist and appalling idea of all of the racist and appalling ideas coming out of the far left. President George W. Bush warned about the soft bigotry of low expectations. Today, there is nothing soft about Ms. Harris and the Democrats' bigotry.
That's Tom Basile, host of America Right Now, Saturday mornings at 9 Eastern on Newsmax. He mentioned George W. Bush. Tom actually worked in the Bush White House. He held several positions during the Bush administration, so he knows George W. well. In some of the latest polling, this one from the Associated Press Nork Center for Public Affairs Research finds that the economy is by far the most important issue to voters in this election, as it is in most elections. It has now risen above immigration and abortion, which are second and third, along with crime and some other issues. But what's really amazing, if you believe the polls, is that even though Donald Trump still leads on the economy, this poll found more voters are starting to lean towards Harris on fixing the economy. Let me say it again in case you missed it. Some voters are thinking that Vice President Harris will be better at fixing the economy than Donald Trump. Yes, I know. It's mind-boggling. She's part of the administration, the Biden-Harris administration that got us to where we are today. But she will fix it, and people are believing it. I mentioned the Yankees, right, are in the World Series. Back when Hillary Clinton ran for Senate in New York, she was wearing a Yankees hat, right? Claiming to be a Yankees fan. And people cheered her on. And she may have even tried to do it with a little New York accent, if I remember correctly. My father, God rest his soul, said, "Can people really be this stupid?" Well, you decide. This is political analyst Mark Halperin on Sunday Agenda.
We are 16 days away from this election. Latest numbers from 538 polling in the 7 key swing states show former President Trump with leads in Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina. Vice President Harris, though, slightly ahead in Michigan and Nevada. And both candidates are tied in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, a dead tie in both of those states. I've seen you talking about this live on X lately, Mark, quite a bit, doing a great job and getting a lot of different voices out there. Where do you think the two candidates stand at this very moment? And does either side feel like it has more momentum in this race at this point?
Well, Katie, if you look at the public and private polling, everything's margin of error stuff, right? Nobody's got a 6 or 7 point lead in any of the 7 states. What Donald Trump has going for him is he does have some of the momentum. His campaign is projecting confidence. They're not saying they're the underdogs. They're saying they're going to win. That's contrary to what the Harris campaign is doing. And what he's also got is we know that the polls have historically understated Trump's support. On the Democratic side, what do they have? They have, without a doubt, more money and, without a doubt, a larger and maybe superior effort to turn out the vote, whether that's early vote or on Election Day vote. So right now, I've said for a while, I think President Trump is at least a slight favorite here. But those Trump supporters who think it's over, I think they're just wrong. The states are just too close right now.
An NBC News poll shows 52% of voters saying they plan on casting their ballots early this year. Now, by party, Democrats appear to have the edge in early voting nationally, 47 to 36%. But in the key swing states of Arizona and Georgia, Republicans are now outpacing Democrats in early voting. Your thoughts on this?
Well, it's almost certainly the case that in these 7 states, Democrats will have the edge on the early vote. But the question will be how big an edge and who are the folks voting early? I think we saw in 2020, the early vote accounted for Joe Biden's victory over Donald Trump. The lead is going to be smaller, but it's still going to be a lead for Democrats. And I think we're going to know probably in a week to 10 days just how those numbers shake out. Right now, there are bright spots for Republicans. You're showing one of them there. In some of the states, Republicans are doing better. And in every state of all 7 states where there is data, they're doing better than they were doing in 2020. So Republicans have at least somewhat addressed the challenge from 2020, where the early vote just made it impossible for Donald Trump to catch up on Election Day.
I want to talk about what we'll know and when, because that's a big question mark. In Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, for example, the ballots aren't processed until Election Day. Then Georgia has this hand count issue this year. Will we know who won within even days of this election?
Katie, I'm recommending boxes and boxes of Good and Plenty and bottles of Diet Dr. Pepper, because we might know. Look, there's 7 battleground states. If one of the candidates wins 6 or all 7, we're going to know. If it's 4-3 or maybe even 5-2, or at least appears to be headed that way, we probably won't know for at least a day or two, and maybe much longer. We know that, unfortunately, these 7 states that are going to decide the election, they're not the best counter. And if it's a close election, they're all going to go for accuracy over speed.
They're all going to go for accuracy over speed, which is what we should all be hoping for and expect, right? Accuracy. That's political analyst Mark Halperin. So if the election is close, which as of now, according to all the polls, it is, we likely won't know the winner on Wednesday, November 6th. Although it could be a landslide, as some are predicting, and then we'll know late Tuesday night, right? But if everything we're seeing now plays out, we may not know until Thursday. Over the weekend, I saw the Kamala Harris ad campaign with the people for Kamala, the paid actors, saying, "I'm not a millionaire. Trump is going to give tax breaks to the rich. Kamala is going to fight for me." Again, people, how did we get here? I mean, it's just unbelievable. And I must have seen that 20 times over the weekend, along with this Trump ad that I'm sure you've seen.
Father of 3, sentenced to life in prison. Kamala Harris pushed to use tax dollars to pay for his sex change.
I made sure that they changed the policy so that every transgender inmate would have access.
It sounds insane because it is insane. Kamala was the first to help pay for a prisoner's sex change.
So how much do you think ads like that are going to impact the Harris campaign in this final stretch? And I want to add that this was legal when President Trump was in office.
Yeah, look, the difference is, from the Trump campaign's point of view, is he's repudiating this idea. She was given an opportunity to repudiate it when she did an interview last week, and she said she'd follow the law. It's done damage, and some Democrats are frustrated that Kamala Harris hasn't responded through paid advertising. This is as Trump campaign has put millions of dollars behind this ad. There's some ambiguity, as you point out, but the reality is they do have differences on some of these issues. And Kamala Harris, for whatever reason, doesn't so far want to address it, either in interviews or in paid media. And if she loses, this ad is going to be cited as one of the maybe half dozen reasons, maybe a dozen reasons why she lost, because she failed to define herself. Remember, the Trump campaign wants voters to see her in their famous 4 words as weak, failed, and dangerously liberal. And this ad goes to at least a couple of those.
Again, political analyst Mark Halperin on Sunday Agenda. And my friend Mercedes Schlapp is going to wrap up today's edition with us with a story about a young mother now serving prison time for protesting abortion outside of an abortion clinic.
A wife and mother of a 2-year-old is reporting to federal prison to begin a 3.5-year sentence. Bevelyn Beatty Williams was convicted and sentenced this summer to 41 months behind bars for violating the Freedom of Access to Clinics, better known as the FACE Act, in connection with her role in a June 2020 protest at an abortion center in Lower Manhattan. Williams is pro-life, a pro-life supporter, a public Trump supporter. And so the Biden-Harris DOJ dropped the hammer on her. Her husband joined Rob Schmidt last night and had this to say.
We have a 2-year-old. She's the most beautiful little girl ever. I love her so much. And it's just devastating for the fact that, she would not be able to see her mother. My wife would go to the gym, and our daughter, she's like, where is she? Where is she? She just start crying. So my wife is a stay-at-home mom. And it's just tragic for us right now.
I mean, Robert, come on. They're going after a pro-life activist, yet, you have criminals running around in New York City that get out on bail. What's going on?
Oh, look, I'm a criminal defense lawyer by trade.
I knew it. That's why I went to you first.
Yeah, I will always find a way for someone not to go to jail. That's what I'm good at.
Right.
But I think in this situation, this is part of the caustic nature of our media culture that tells people that the way to fight these things out is in front of the abortion clinic and not at the ballot box. We have to help people to understand that the way that you change laws in this country is by voting, by making sure you're putting in officials who believe in your political agenda and who will fight for that political agenda.
But come on, we have the First Amendment, and that law in and of itself, the FACE Act, completely extreme.
If that's extreme, let people and change it. Don't abscond from it.
Let me just say, this is the great irony, which is if you're a grandmother who was at the Capitol on J6, you could go to prison for years. If you're a mom, a young African-American mom in New York City where they kill more young babies in abortion than allowed to live who are black, and you're so morally outraged by that, you simply want to go protest that, which I did as a young man. I was arrested at one of these clinics. But if you can go to jail for 4 years for that, but someone in BLM can destroy. I watched it one night here right by the White House. The president had to be removed into the bunker. They were standing and destroying the Portland courthouse. They killed a cop. All those things. DOJ dropped all the prosecutions against almost every single one of those people. Yeah. Kamala Harris led the charge. There's a double standard now in America. If you're for a left-wing cause, they say it's a proper grievance. If it's for a more traditional cause, you're going to go to prison. And our democracy, talk about trying to defend democracy, you can't defend that.
That's Matt Schlapp, chairman of CPAC on Newsmax. So Donald Trump is making a few stops in North Carolina today, as I mentioned. Vice President Harris is heading back to Wisconsin and Pennsylvania with Republican or former Republican Liz Cheney. Democrats also reeling today over Elon Musk's offer of giving away $1 million a day to someone who signs his super PAC's petition backing the Constitution, saying it may be illegal, among other things. And we know it's all because of Trump, right? But they are essentially fighting against the support of the Constitution. And the current president, Joe Biden, is back at the White House after spending the weekend at Camp David. He will deliver remarks tonight at a National Arts and Humanities reception. And if you're planning a family trip to D.C., the First Lady has reportedly revamped the White House tour.
We're inviting visitors further into the rooms than ever before, and including the diplomatic reception room, which hasn't been open to public tours before this.
On Wall Street, stock markets opened in the red this morning as investors gear up for another week of earnings, including Elon Musk's Tesla. That's always real big. Boeing will report earnings as the company lose millions of dollars a day due to 30,000 plus striking workers. Gold is up again, surpassing $2,750 plus for an ounce of gold, and Bitcoin is again pushing 70,000. You can keep up with all of the news all day and night on Newsmax, Newsmax.com, and make sure you're streaming on Newsmax Plus so you're getting the most complete lineup of all your favorite shows, hosts, and guests. Newsmaxplus.com. Make sure you're signed up. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Newsmax Daily. Please share it with your friends and family. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Hey, it's Jerry Callahan from The Callahan Show. You can listen to us every day. We react to the latest news, politics, sports, and all the madness in the world. I'll give you my opinion with a little edge, a little attitude. I'm an unapologetic right-winger, trapped behind enemy lines in deep blue Boston, so I'm used to taking on the mainstream media mob. You can hear us anywhere you get your podcast, or you can listen every day at newsmax.com/listen.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is NEWSMAX. It's real news.